Beautiful little fools, that's what us girls are destined for. Beautiful little fools, born to be adored.
So no matter what happens, just keep sticking it to him. Now who are we?
Man machine. Man machine. Man machine. Man machine.
Supremacy. With this particular video, I want to reveal to you that you are not yourself. C-E-L-L-F, self, cells, however you want to pronounce it. You are not yourself. That's the difference between you and yourself, or cells. For example, cells die, and your cells are reborn every 7 years. Your cells will completely have replenished. In 7 years, you have totally new cells. So you could not be those cells. And you could not be the cell or the prison that you consider to be you. Who you think you are is a prison that only lives within your consciousness. Your entire body has regenerated. You're not the same person that you were 7 years ago. You're a different physical being with totally new cells. You have a totally new body every 7 years. The only thing that's trapping you in who you were is your consciousness, your mental attachment to who you think you are based upon how you perceive your experiences and what you've been through, and how you have come up with a definition of who you are based on those experiences. And then that has become an ego. Then you have become obsessed with that, and now you think, oh, I love myself. And really you love yourself, because that's not you. You're changing every moment. You're being renewed, and you have the opportunity to be a new physical entity every moment. But your consciousness is reprogramming your physical body with your old self. It's keeping you in the same cell. So even though you are a new being, even though you're physically a new entity, you're reprogramming that physical entity to be identified as the past versions of you. Who you think you are is a phantom, is a ghost. It's not attached to your body, but it programs the body so that you can carry out the same energy, the same frequency, the same pattern, or the same personhood that you once were. That you can maintain a certain type of continuity or a certain consistency of selfhood, because you are constantly dying. You fear death. You've already died physically. You die every 7 years. They say a cat has 9 lives. You have like more than 9 lives. Divide the average lifespan, say it's 100 years, by 7. That's how many lives you have. But you're only living one life, one consecutive life. That is a consciousness entity. That the you believe that you are, that the you have become attached to being. And you're fighting for that entity. You're fighting against the natural change and the natural transformation as you open up to life and to what it is and how infinite, unwilling to expand your consciousness. You believe that what you went through somehow defines who you are, or where you've been, or who you've known, and how those people reacted and responded to you and approached you. You believe that that defines your personality. So you keep playing the same music and watching the same movies and trying to maintain the same dislikes and the same taste, so that you can keep this artificial entity alive, so that it can be parasitic and dominate over the new cellular entity that you are. You are a new physical being. So then now there's 3 entities. It's like a trinity or a triune being. There's the you, that is infinite consciousness, that is infinite darkness, that is infinite void, that can become all things and yet remain nothing at the same time. That's the you. And then there is the self, the cell, the prison. A cell of who you think you are, what you think your limitations are, how you think the world responds and reacts to this being called you. Not you, but the entity called you, that has a name, that has a history, that has experiences, that has memories, that has sentimental values, that has emotions, that has things they cannot get past, things that they cannot forgive, things that they cannot let go. You're defined by a stream of consciousness that you got on repeat. You are not yourself. The self is the prison. And when you can transcend beyond the idea of what you consider to be yourself, then you can go into God consciousness. And you can embrace yourself as the all, constantly transforming. You can embrace yourself as the all, constantly regenerating and renewing itself. The you that you believe is you died. You just didn't go to the funeral, so you believe it's still alive. Because it was such a subtle transformation of cellular death. It's so subtle and so slow on a gradual level that you tend to look in the mirror and see the same person even though you're a different entity. You tend to see life the same way when there's been zillions and quadrillions of changes that have occurred around you. You still see the same thing because you live in a perceptual prison, trying to maintain an artificial reality, not willing to let go. You believe you are what you have experienced and what you have seen and what you have perceived, and you have created an identity out of all that. And now the maintenance of that identity is more important than expanding your consciousness to be able to travel through the reality of being and beingness itself. You are not yourself, so you could not love a self that you're not. The self that you think that you are, that you love, is an idol, is an artificial entity that is blasphemous to the divine being that you actually are. It's blasphemy. It's idol worship. You're obsessed with an object that is at the same time it is an idea. But it's an idea that has parameters, that has limitations. That's what makes it an object of veneration that you feel like you have to keep up. That's why you are fake. That's why you got people out there that are fake, because they're trying to maintain a false reality of a false self. Who you are is homogeneous with anyone you interface with. Who you are is a simultaneous occurrence with every situation, circumstance, and human interaction that you have. Your existence is a simultaneous occurrence with your environment and with your atmosphere. And that's the natural reality. But versus identifying with that and being able to live as that occurrence, to live as that phenomenon, to live as that divine moment, you're trying to maintain an artificial self. You're trying to maintain an artificial entity that you have overlaid over yourself to make you perceive the new entity that you become every 7 days as the same thing, as the same person. You can go to a different place, a different state, a different city, a different country. But if you still the same self and living in the same cell, it really doesn't matter where you're at. You have to let that self die. You have to step out of that prison called you, or you can never grow. Because that prison continues to differentiate in a way that maintains the prison, that maintains the limited paradigm that you live in. The paradigm that you're living in is you. It is the self that you're carrying around. You're taking it with you everywhere you go, trying to protect it, trying to maintain it. You are not yourself. You are infinite. You are an infinite and eternal being. You are not the cells that you are now, for they will die 7 years from now. That's it. So then what are you? You are what you contemplate. You are what you focus on. You are what you meditate on. So what are you focusing, contemplating, and meditating on that's creating the life that you are living? What are you attached to? What are you holding on to? See, everything you want wants something of you. What you want in life wants you to become something, but you can't become something new if you attach to the old definition of who you are because you believe that's yourself. And you're talking about, I love myself. Hate who you're not. To love who you are is to love an infinite being that is constantly, gradually growing and expanding. That has no parameters and no limitations, that's interfacing with a live stream, with a live reality, with an organic, animated world that's constantly transforming. You are not yourself. The self that you think you are is relative. Relative to who you've known, where you've been, what you've experienced, the climate, the terrain, the circumstance. Who you think you are, who you think is yourself is a relative entity. It's not you. It's a reflection of a situation. But as you continue to travel and journey, and you leave who you were and who you think you were behind, you will become a new entity and a new being that is infinite, with infinite ability, infinite power, that can embrace all, be all at the same time, be one with everything all at once. No matter the situation and circumstance, you're immediately one with it because you realize you are an infinite being. You're not just yourself. Yourself is old information. Yourself lives in the past. Who you are is the present moment. You're the life of the moment. You're the life of the present moment as it is transforming, as it is extending, as it is inverting and outverting, as it is collapsing and contracting. You are all. So how can you love yourself if who you are is outside of the cells, outside of that? How can you love yourself if who you are is beyond yourself? If you're all in everything, you're not yourself. And when you realize that, you free yourself to the infinite becomingness of who you are, who you can be, the infinite transformation. You can't get to where you're trying to go until you can go beyond where you at. But if you believe where you at is who you are, then you will be imprisoned in the thing that you call self. It will be your cell. It's King Noble Black Supremacy.
I love